other one. Ah, no, I have got it. Yeah. It's a very small paragraph.
Yes.
It has all the power. No?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So one of you read and then we'll come back to it.
Shall I read?
Yeah, go ahead.
It
Let
has
all
all
the
the power of a way of works, integral and absolute, but because of its law of sacrifice and self-giving to the divine self and master, it is accompanied on its one side by the whole power of the path of love, and on the other side by the whole power of path of knowledge. At its end, all these three divine powers work together, fused, united, completed, perfected by each other.
Yeah. Very clear what he's saying. That when you are doing karma yoga, not only you get the way of works is karma yoga. That means basic principle of karma yoga is you dedicate everything that you are doing or even thinking or even emoting, whatever you are doing, you offer it to the divine. So that is the karma yoga. And it also joins bhakti yoga and also jnana yoga. That's what he has gone into detail previous paragraph. That's what he's saying here. So if you do karma yoga, and it becomes the most powerful because it also leads you to love of the divine as well as knowledge of the divine. Okay, and the best way of doing that offering is remembrance, because that's much easier if you think of it that way. Remember and offer everything that you do. Okay, from the most banal activity, okay, even walking, even going here, going there, marketing, whatever you are doing, just think of the divine and offer that to the remembrance. It can start with remembrance, and even if the remembrance is very mechanical, it doesn't matter in the beginning, because then afterwards he says emotion comes in. Remembrance can sometimes be very bland, it can be emotionless, it can just be a thought in the mind, but that doesn't matter, because slowly it will give you love and it will also give you knowledge, because you are identifying yourself with. It's just like if you have a new friend, okay, the more you mix with him, the more you will know his character. Exactly in the same way, when you go on thinking of the Lord and even offering what you're doing, even in the beginning, you may not even be able to offer, because you may wonder what is meant by offering. Sometimes that question comes up. Okay. But even remembrance, it starts with remembrance and then it becomes, and you get all the three in the end. And that's why that's what Swamda wants. He wants the integral knowledge of the divine. So he's talking of three powers. What are the three powers? Okay. Knowledge in the mind, love in the heart, and correct action, the power to act correctly in the body. So all these things, these are at its end, all these three divine powers work together. They are fused, united, completed. When you have to do a particular work, you have the knowledge how to do it. And also you do it with great enjoyment, because love will also give enjoyment. Okay. So we can go to the next section. The divine, the eternal is the Lord. So
Shall I read?
yes, Jasmine, please do that.
The divine, the eternal, is the Lord of our sacrifice of works and union with Him in all our being and consciousness, and in its expressive instruments is the one object of the sacrifice. The steps of the sacrifice of works must therefore be measured. First, by the growth of our nature of something that brings us nearer to divine nature. But secondly, also by an experience of the divine, His presence, His manifestation to us, an increasing closeness and union with that presence. But the divine is in His essence infinite, and His manifestation too is multitudinously infinite. If that is so, is it not likely that our true integral perfection in being and its nature can come by one kind of realization alone? It must combine many different strands of divine experience. It cannot be reached by the exclusive pursuit of a single line of identity till that is raised to its absolute. It must harmonize many aspects of the infinite. An integral consciousness with a multiform dynamic experience is essential for the complete transformation of our nature.
Again, another small para, not a big one. So we'll have a quick look at what you say. When we are, who is the Lord? Who is the Lord of ours? To whom are we offering our works? That's what he's discussing here. A servant in the house works for either the lady who is in charge of the house or the man. Okay, and in a factory, the worker is working for the manager or the owner of the business. So when we are also doing works, for whom are we doing? He's defining what this Lord is. The divine, the absolute supreme, the eternal, is the Lord of our sacrifice of works. Sometimes it is not like that. When we go to the temple, you go to Tirupati and you offer your money to, and you pray to Ganesh or you pray to Tirupati Lord or whatever. But ultimately, all these things travel to the supreme. That's what Srinath said earlier. Even if you give it to lower powers of the divine, it ultimately reaches the eternal. The divine, the eternal, is the Lord of our sacrifice of works. Note the word Lord, it means the personal aspect of the divine, not necessarily an impersonal aspect. Because he is discussing Karma Yoga. He is not discussing Jnana Yoga. In Jnana Yoga, there is no Lord. You are only trying to silence your mind. You are going to the impersonal aspect of the divine. So here, the Lord, okay, you are constantly imagining in yourself the Lord. And you can imagine in any way you want. And why Lord? Even mother also is equal, because at the highest level, mother and Lord are all same. The divine, the eternal, is the Lord of our sacrifice of works, and union with him in all our being. And what is our being? Mind, life, and body, and consciousness. So, mind, life, and body, and consciousness. And in its expressive instruments, okay, is the one object of the sacrifice. What you want to do is, you want to unite your mind with him, you want to unite your vital with him, you even want your body to become one with his body. Because after all, he has a body. It may be a very subtle body, but it's a body. That is possible. I remind you of the very interesting experience that Pavitra had. Okay, he poured his subtle body into mother's body. Okay, so it is possible for two bodies even to merge. He is talking of the union with him in all our being and consciousness. Consciousness, we can understand that two consciousnesses merge, two vital substances can merge, but even the subtle bodies can also merge. The expressive instrument, body, mind, life, are the expressions of the soul. The steps of the sacrifice of works must therefore be measured by, how do you know that you're succeeding? So he's saying this is how you understand. First, by the growth in our nature of something that brings us nearer to the divine nature. In other words, you start seeing that many of your limitations start becoming less and less intense, and finally they even disappear. So that is one sign that you are succeeding in your karma yoga. Okay, so the steps of the sacrifice of work must therefore be measured. How do you measure your own progress? First, by the growth in our nature of something that brings us nearer to the divine. In other words, your remembrance becomes easier and easier, easier and easier. Then you know that you are on the right line. Secondly, that's the first sign. Secondly, by an experience of the divine. That is even better. You, first of all, you see that your remembrance is going on increasing. In the beginning, you are only trying to remember the divine in some moments, in the morning when you get up, when you're going to sleep, when you're going to eat. But later on, you find that you are applying that remembrance everywhere, in whatever you are doing. That's the first one. Second one, you actually have the experience of the divine. Secondly, by an experience of the divine, his presence, you start feeling his presence everywhere. One way of seeing the presence is, when you have a problem, you refer to him. And if your consciousness is sufficiently developed by then the response is immediate. The response is immediate. But sometimes it may not be immediate, it may come after 10 minutes. Okay, you have a problem and you wonder what to do. This is my problem, what should I do? Ask him directly as though you are conversing with him, because he is there with you, sitting by your side. And when you do that, then sometimes if your consciousness is open, immediate answer is there. Immediately the thought comes into your mind as to what to do. But sometimes it may take 10 minutes, 15 minutes, sometimes it may take even half an hour, sometimes it may take even one day. But then when the answer comes, you must realize that, oh, this is the answer to my question. We often don't do that in the beginning. But the more the consciousness develops, the answer is very clearly perceived. So that's in nature. Growth of something that brings us nearer to the divine nature. Secondly, by an experience of the divine, his presence, his manifestation to us. You actually see him or hear him or feel his presence. An increasing closeness and union with that presence. But the divine is, in his essence, infinite, and his manifestation too is multitudinously infinite. You mustn't think of him only in one way. It can come to you through many, many ways. It can come as a thought, it can come as an emotion, it can even come as a subtle physical presence. You will feel him there with all the time, with you all the time. But this divine is, in his essence, infinite, and his manifestation too is multitudinously infinite. If that is so, it is not likely that our true integral perfection in being and in nature. Okay? So we have to see what is meant by in being and in nature. In being is your consciousness within, and nature outside. Okay, in your body-mind life. Nature is always body-mind life. Can come by one kind of realization alone. So, one kind of realization, you see, you have a thought of the divine, or you realize you get knowledge of the divine. That is one kind. Another kind, you have love for the divine. So these is the integral perfection likely to come only by one path? They're saying no. You have to get all. If that is so, it is not likely that our true integral perfection in being and in nature can come by one kind of realization alone. It must combine many different strands of divine experience. All the three: knowledge, love, and action. It cannot be reached by the exclusive pursuit of a single line of identity till that is raised to its absolute. So, he has told you earlier that if you are more, when you are starting your yoga and you are more inclined in your mind, okay, fine, start with that. But ultimately, you have to take it to your heart as well as your body. You have to begin with the thought of the divine, but also you start going more towards the emotional side, and finally every action also you have to do. So, but if you are stuck only in the Jnana Yoga or only in the Bhakti Yoga, you won't know him perfectly in all aspects. You will know him only in one aspect. Even that is so satisfactory that people don't mind. Okay, that's why they do Jnana Yoga alone, or they do only Bhakti Yoga alone. But for Srimdu, that's not enough. He is very, very demanding. He wants the divine in all, in mind and heart and body. It must combine many strands of divine experience. It cannot be reached by the exclusive pursuit of a single line of identity. Single line of identity, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. Karma Yoga is the most powerful because it can lead you to the others. So, must till that is raised to its absolute. It must harmonize many aspects of the infinite. Now, this sentence is a very interesting one because it means harmonize many aspects of the infinite. Remember that the infinite contains all the dualities. So all that also must be realized. Okay, I just mentioned, and it's very thought-provoking. What is meant by all aspects of the infinite? So in the world, you have dualities, but both are not to be rejected but understood. For instance, he says, later on he will tell you, later on in the chapter, that discipline is very important at our level. Na? But discipline means you have to follow certain rules. And rules are limitation. Rule means you can do this, but you can't do that. So there's a limitation. So discipline is very necessary, agreed. But what about the opposite of discipline? Total freedom. Freedom also is necessary. So that's why Srimba says you have to combine both. Okay, you have to combine both freedom as well as discipline. Okay. Then he says, in fact, he says in the record of yoga, he says you have to combine dasyam with aishwaryam. Dasyam means you are a servant of the Lord, but at the same time you must be master of yourself. So very difficult for the mind to understand how you can be servant and master at the same time. But this is what he means by many aspects of the infinite. Nothing is to be rejected. Okay, you have to think about it. An integral consciousness, I'm reading the last line. An integral consciousness with a multiform dynamic experience is essential for the complete transformation of our nature. Many yogis are not interested in the complete transformation. They are interested only in one aspect because it is so satisfying. But Srivanda wants 10 times more satisfaction. He wants satisfaction at the knowledge level, at the enjoyment level, love level, as well as action. Your action must be perfect in the world. There should be no ignorance and no wrong action. So that completes that para. Now we can go on to the next one, which is rather long. There is one fundamental perception. So Jasmine read just now. So who will read next? Any one of you? Sunki can read, or Archana Di can read. Go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
There is one fundamental perception indispensable towards any integral knowledge or many-sided experience of this infinite. It is to realize the divine in its essential self and truth unaltered by forms and phenomena. Otherwise, we are likely to remain caught in the net of appearances or wander confusedly in a chaotic multitude of cosmic or particular aspects. And if we avoid this confusion, it will be at the price of getting chained to some mental formula or shut up in a limited personal experience. The one secure and all reconciling truth, which is the very foundation of the universe, is this: that life is the manifestation of an uncreated self and spirit. And the key to life's hidden secret is the true relation of this spirit with its own created existences. There is behind all this life the look of an eternal being upon its multitudinous becomings. There is around and everywhere in it the envelopment and penetration of a manifestation in time by an unmanifested, timeless, eternal. But this knowledge is valueless for yoga if it is only an intellectual and metaphysical notion void of life and barren of consequence. A mental realization alone cannot be sufficient for the seeker. For what yoga searches after is not truth of thought alone or truth of mind alone, but the dynamic truth of a living and revealing spiritual experience. There must awake in us a constant indwelling and enveloping nearness, a vivid perception, a close feeling and communion, a concrete sense and contact of a true and infinite presence always and everywhere. That presence must remain with us as the living, pervading reality in which we and all things exist and move and act, and we must feel it always and everywhere, concrete, visible, inhabiting all things. It must be patent to us as their true self, tangible as their imperishable essence, met by us closely at their inmost spirit. To see, to feel, to sense, to contact in every way, and not merely to conceive this self and spirit here in all existences, and to feel with the same vividness all existences in this self and spirit is the fundamental experience which must englobe all other knowledge.
Okay, so we'll go behind the words and see what is meaning. It has to be very, very concrete to us. Okay. By the way, who read just now? May I know?
Tarika.
Oh, Tarika. Okay. I thought so, but I wasn't 100% sure. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we'll try and go behind the word. There is one fundamental perception indispensable towards any integral knowledge or many-sided experience of the infinite. The integral knowledge and many-sided experience of the infinite suggests the integral yoga. If you are interested in the integral yoga, this fundamental perception is indispensable, not for the other yoga so much. And what is that fundamental perception? He is going to tell you. It is to realize the divine in its essential self and truth, unaltered by forms and phenomena. So understand this, okay? When the divine manifests in the physical world, in the universe, or in the individual, he is altered a little bit by the form and the phenomena. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, at the highest level, only the divine exists before creation. Okay? Only the divine exists. That is the fundamental aspect. That is the essential. It is the essence. It's a seed. There is no universe at that time, and there is no individual. So, in other words, if you want a very clear statement, transcendent. You have to know the divine only in his essential aspects, without the cosmos and without the individual. Clear? Because when he comes into the universe, he is hidden by the universe, he is conditioned by the universe, or he is altered by the universe. So you have to understand all these words. Unaltered by forms and phenomena. Not only by forms, but even events. Okay? Forms are in space and phenomena are in time. So when he comes down, he is hiding himself and conditioning himself to the conditions in the universe. And when he enters into the individual, he is also conditioning and he is adjusting himself to the conditions in the individual. Okay. So that is what is meant by unaltered. So that's clear now. See, it has to be a concrete idea. Unaltered. When the divine is unaltered by universe or individual, he is transcendent. There is only the divine. Okay? When the divine before manifestation, you feel yourself to be in the divine and the world doesn't exist for you, neither does your body mind life exist for you. It is a transcendent experience. So that's what you have to realize. If you don't
But
realize
the forms, the forms and phenomena, what forms the forms that we give, like is it Krishna or Rama or things like that, or no? I didn't understand that part.
No. Forms are everything in the physical world, the physical forms. Stones, trees, animals, okay? Yeah, clouds, everything in the physical world is form. Okay. Nama, Rupa, okay? Yeah. And phenomena, all the movement in the physical world. Everything that is there in the physical world is a phenomenon. A phenomenon is an event. And an event starts and ends, okay? So that is the phenomena. That's in time. So in other words, the divine is not conditioned by forms and time and space. That's what it means. When you realize the transcendent, you feel that you are outside time and space. We know that. And when you are outside time, you are immutable, because time is the only one that mutates, which changes, which gives action. But when you are at the highest level, and that highest level can be experienced even at the higher mind level, remember that. It doesn't mean that you have to go right to the top. You can get a glimpse of that immutable transcendent even in the higher mind. So now it's clear. Forms and phenomena necessarily means the universe.
Okay.
So that's right. The divine conditions himself by forms and phenomena. Okay? So form refers to, as I said, space. In space, there are forms. And in time, there are phenomena. Okay? So that's what he means. In other words, again, I repeat, okay? There is a condition of the divine which is outside time and space, where there is no hint at all of the universe, nor of the individual. When you experience the transcendent, even you don't exist. Okay? You have become the infinite transcendent. Sometimes you may experience that I am experiencing this infinity, but that also can disappear sometimes. And even the I am experiencing unity, the infinity can disappear. You become the infinite. There's no one who is experiencing the infinite. There are two levels of that. Okay, so that's a transcendent. Clear? Transcendent is the essential divine. Just like in a tree, the essence is the seed. Before the tree comes in, the seed exists by itself. The seed is the cause of the tree. Exactly in the same way, the transcendent is the cause of the universe. It comes out, just like the tree and the seed. Okay? So, if you don't do that, Srimdra is saying, for the integral yoga, he is talking about. Otherwise, we are likely to remain caught in the net of appearances and wander confusedly in a chaotic multitude of cosmic and particular aspects. Let's look at what he's saying again. Pardon, I couldn't follow. Someone was saying something?
No.
Okay. Okay. Otherwise, we are likely to remain caught in the net of appearances. Which is the net of appearances? The physical world. Because everything that you see, okay, appearance. A stone is an appearance. Okay. Behind the stone is the reality. All appearances are like photographs. They represent to a certain extent what you are seeing, but they can disappear. The photograph can disappear. But the actual thing, what the photograph is representing, does not disappear. That is permanent. Exactly in the same way, everything that you see in the physical world is appearance only. Okay? All forms are appearances because today they are there, tomorrow they may disappear. Okay? Just like a photograph or an image. Okay? That's what it means. Otherwise, we are likely to remain caught in the net of appearances. In other words, if you are caught in the net of appearances, you will be like any other man, normal man, who is seeing the physical world, seeing his friends, seeing the trees and the animals and everything, and thinking that that is the reality. That is what is meant by caught in the net of appearances. But when you realize that the physical world is only appearance, that it is only name and form, and you have to go to the reality behind that name and form, then you are not caught. Okay? And you wander confusedly in a chaotic multitude of cosmic or particular effects. So even if you go to the spiritual level only through one way, you are caught in the cosmic. You think that that's the end, but that's not necessarily the end. Or you can even, the particular cosmic aspect is when you are stuck in the spiritual. Pardon? I didn't follow. There was a, so multitude of cosmic, even at the spiritual level, okay? Even at the spiritual level, there can be a limitation. And particular aspect, he is talking of the, you are thinking that the divine is within you, okay? So that is the other aspect. You can get either stuck at the cosmic level or at the particular aspect. You think that the divine is there within you, but that's not the only experience. And if we avoid this confusion, it will be at the price of getting changed to some mental formula or shut up in the limited personal experience. The mental formula can come when you are in the spiritual plane of consciousness. You are limited only to that. Like the Jnana Yogi or even the Bhakti Yoga or limited personal experience, the Bhakti Yoga. Okay? You see the divine within yourself. Both are incomplete. That's what Srindra is saying. It is wonderful to have the experience of the divine in your heart. It's wonderful to see the transcendent experience. But it's not enough. That's what Srindra is saying. It's very much enough for those who experience it. They are so satisfied that they tend to get stuck in it. But Srindra, as I told you, wants total, integral knowledge of the divine. So he wants all the aspects. And that is the reason why everybody is not meant for the integral yoga. Some are meant for the Jnana yoga, some are meant for the Karma yoga, some are meant for the Bhakti yoga. And this is not a negative statement. It's not a criticism. Every soul has got its own destiny, and that's perfectly okay. There's no problem at all with that. Just like someone becomes an engineer, someone becomes a doctor, someone becomes a psychiatrist. Okay, there's no problem with that. There's no problem at all. But Srimda wants you to have integral experience of the divine. So I go to the next sentence. The one secure and all reconciling truth, which is the very foundation of the universe, is this, that life is the manifestation of an uncreated self and spirit. And the key to life's hidden secret is the true relation of the spirit with its own created existences. This is a very interesting sentence, and we'll look at it very carefully. So, what is that all reconciling truth which he wants? The Jnana Yoga does not lead to all reconciling truth. It only gives you knowledge of the divine. The Bhakti Yoga does not give you all reconciling love, because truth may escape. You may not have knowledge when you have only love for the divine. So satisfying that you are stuck in that and you don't want anything else. So, Srimda is wanting one secure and all reconciling truth, which is the very foundation of the universe. And what is that foundation of the universe? It is this, that life is the manifestation of an uncreated self and spirit. Now note that. The uncreated self and spirit is the transcendent, because the divine is uncreated. He has always existed and he will always exist. The world is, on the contrary, created. It may not be created in time, okay, but it has been created. It is conditioned. So what's he saying? He's saying that the life is the manifestation of an uncreated self and spirit, and the key to life's hidden secret is the true relation of the spirit with its own created existence. So now brings in the idea of Purusha and Prakriti. Okay, the life is the manifestation of uncreated self and spirit is the Purusha, the personal aspect of the divine as well as the infinite. And the key to life's hidden secret is the true relation of the spirit with its own created existences. Which is the created existences? The universe, and the universe is producing the individual forms. So you have to understand the relation of the divine to matter, to the universe. And that's exactly what Srimda wants. He is repeating the same idea in different words. He wants to marry the spirit with matter. The heaven and earth must join in a happy marriage. That's the image he uses in the Life Divine right in the first chapter itself. Okay, so clear. So the one secure and all, you have to realize that the divine is there in the transcendent in its pure form, but he is also creating the universe, and you must get the secret to that universe creation. In other words, you must also know his Shakti. You must know his consciousness, but also his Shakti, which creates the universe. Don't reject the physical world. That's what he's saying. No rejection. Okay? You must realize the importance of life's, the secret of life is to get the relation between spirit and matter. There is behind all this life the look of an eternal being upon its multitudinous becomings. This sentence is the nirvana experience, or the experience of the self. Okay? The self, Atman. Your consciousness gets out of the body, mind, life and enters the spiritual planes of consciousness, the second level. And when you go to that second level, you realize that you are not the body, mind, life anymore. You lose your identification with the limitations of body, mind, life, and you become infinite. And you also realize that you have always been. You are one with the soul and not with your body, mind, life. And so that is the experience of the look. And note the word look of an eternal being. That's a witness. A witness is one who is looking. So, and when the witness is there is absolutely no other influence that comes in. You are only looking absolutely immutably. You're not judging. So that's the sentence is very clearly the experience of the self. Okay, if the self is not clear, again we repeat, the self, you can use different words, Atman, Brahman, and the Buddhists use the word Nirvana. There's a dissolution of all forms and all limitations. And you enter into a consciousness which is infinite, eternal, featureless, absolutely without any features. No form, no shape, no color, nothing. But absolutely real and immutable. It is absolutely static. Why is it static? Because it is perfect. It doesn't need to change. Okay. So this is the self. So if you remember these 4 words, the self, the concept of the self will become clear. And you can use the word self, you can use the word Atman, you can use the word Brahman. Sometimes the word Brahman is used in the sense of the highest, but when you speak of the Brahman, it is this immutable aspect of the divine, the impersonal. There is no person there. Okay, you don't see God in a personal form. So that's the and it is a consciousness that is looking at everything. You yourself become that witness. You are judging everything. You are not even judging yourself. You are looking at all the limitations of your body, mind, life without feeling any sense of guilt or of limitation or of even um, uh, sorrow or redundance. You see, just see everything calmly, quietly. That is the sentence. There is behind all this life, behind all the manifestation, the look of an eternal being upon its multitudinous becomings. One word for multitudinous becomings, the physical world. Multitudinous suggests the many, and becoming is a constant movement. Okay. So I'm trying to impress upon you the word of Sirto's use of words. Multitudinous, the many. You don't see the oneness. You see only the forms, different forms, infinite forms. And becomings, you see constantly movement. But the higher level of where you go into the eternal being, there is no movement there. It's not becoming, it is being. Okay? That's why I use the word being. Being and becoming are opposites. Being is static, infinite. Becoming is in time and space and limitations. But this knowledge is valueless for yoga if it's only an intellectual and metaphysical. Oh, it's time, we have to stop here. But this knowledge is valueless for yoga if it's only an intellectual and metaphysical notion. It must become an experience. That's what Surendra is saying. We'll stop here for today. But this sentence, remember this sentence, and we can make a note of this. But this knowledge is valueless for yoga if it's only an intellectual and metaphysical notion, void of life and barren of consequence. And that's usually what happens. Because when you experience and you go there is no power. There's only a blank, powerless look. It's only a knowledge you get, but you don't get any power normally. Okay? You can, but that's not always usual. So this is what he's saying. If you experience the self and you can't put that into the physical world, why? Because the body, mind, life continues in its old habits. Imperfections exist. That's why a yogi at a very high level of consciousness also, very often you will be seeing, he's doing very ordinary things. And you may wonder, how is he a yogi? Okay? Sometimes they use very vulgar words also, and they do also things which you may not approve of. Okay, so this is what he's saying. So today we stop here. All right. So I think Lakshmi Jyoti is there on the line and she has muted herself. But I am requesting you, Lakshmi Jyoti, to connect to the correct the website. Okay. Otherwise, there is a little bit of a disturbance. Okay. Yeah, you can hear me now. You have unmuted yourself. All right, we stop here today. Au revoir,
Merci
everybody.
beaucoup.
Au revoir. Merci. Bonne journée, Rangada.
Hey,
revoir.
everyone.
Au revoir.
Happy. Okay.